My family called me unstable to stop me selling my home, and my brother promised it wasn't over. Hi, I'm Elliot, 34, and 3 weeks ago I locked my own brother out of my house while he screamed into a Ring doorbell that I'd betrayed the bloodline. The weirdest part, it didn't even crack the top 3 most insane things to happen that month. You'd think the moment that wrecked everything would be loud, some yelling match or cops getting called. But no, it started quietly, with a roast. An overcooked, gray, lifeless roast, like every one my mom had made since 1996. We were all there in that too small dining room again. My parents, Graham, me, no plus ones, just the usual emotional landmines hiding under linen napkins and passive-aggressive compliments. Henry, my 10-year-old, was at a friend's birthday party that Sunday, which meant I didn't even have my best emotional support human in the room with me. At first, it was standard Sunday lunch protocol. Mom complimented herself on the potatoes. Dad stared into his wine like it held answers. Graham made some dumb joke about having big career stuff in the works that involved the words AI and investment opportunity. I chewed, nodded, endured, until Mom dabbed her lips and said, "So Graham's had a bit of bad luck at work." I didn't even bother looking up. I already knew. The tone, the phrasing, the way Dad stiffened like he was bracing for impact. Mom continued, "His company downsized, completely unexpected, let go of a lot of talented people." I interrupted. Was this the crypto thing? Or I want to say dog grooming app? Graham rolled his eyes. It was fintech. Right, I said. Totally. What's fintech again? Elliot, Mom snapped, like I was the one being rude. Then came the real blow. We thought it would make the most sense, she said brightly, if you helped cover Graham's rent for a little while, just until he's back on his feet. I stopped chewing, put my fork down, slowly turned to look at her. I'm sorry? What? You have the house, the good job. You've always said Henry doesn't need much. I didn't shout. I didn't flip the table. I just sat back in my chair and stared at my brother, who shrugged like I was being unreasonable for not wanting to finance his adult toddler lifestyle. And that was the moment I realized something very, very important. They were never going to stop, not until I made them. So I smiled, took a slow sip of wine, and said, "Well then, if we're playing the family helps family game, I guess it's your turn." The next morning, I called a realtor, not to sell the house, not yet, but to learn how fast I could. Just having the info gave me something my family had never allowed me before. Options. Celeste was her name, sharp bob, sharper tongue. Within 15 minutes of walking through my place, she'd rattled off at least 5 improvements I should have done years ago, and told me I could list by the end of the month if I wanted to. I didn't say yes, but I didn't say no. That afternoon, I boxed up everything Graham had touched. The hoodie he borrowed, the mug he used, even the half-eaten bag of Doritos he left on my coffee table. I dumped it all in a cardboard box and shoved it into the garage. 2 hours later, my phone buzzed. "Graham, you up for a call?" I didn't respond. Then a text from Mom. "We need to talk like adults. Call us tonight." Still no response. 3 days of silence followed. Then came the email. Subject line, "Family Decisions." It was a 6-paragraph guilt manifesto about how hurt they were, how disappointed, how I'd turned my back on the people who made me who I am. I skimmed it, hit archive, then booked a therapy session for Friday. That Thursday, Henry came home from school with a sheet of paper in his backpack. A flyer. Family talent show, Bring Your Loved Ones. He was excited, said he wanted to play his keyboard and wanted me to sing along. I laughed at first. Me? Sing? In public? But the way he looked at me, hopeful and sure, I said yes. That was the first time in weeks I felt anything close to peace.
Then Friday came. Therapy was a gut punch in a good way. Joel, my new therapist, listened to everything. Every lunch, every manipulation, every guilt trip, and said something that stuck. You're not selfish for protecting your peace. You're just not used to having any. That night, I sat on the back porch, watching Henry chase fireflies with a jar. My phone buzzed again. Graham. This time, I opened it. Since you won't help, I've moved in the mom and dad's. Not forever, just for now. But FYI, they're pretty pissed. Maybe think about what you're doing before it's too late. I stared at the screen, then at my son. Too late for what? I put the phone down. Then I started planning, quietly, and I wasn't planning to help them. It was the following Wednesday when the first real strike landed. I came home from dropping Henry off at school to find an envelope wedged into the doorframe. No stamp, no postmark, just my name scribbled in my mother's cursive that always looked like it belonged on sympathy cards. Inside was a typed letter, because of course it was. Formal, cold, strategic. We've spoken to legal counsel. As co-signers and contributors to your property, we retain partial equity in the home located at 17 Oak Ridge Lane. Any attempt to sell said property without fair compensation may result in legal action. I stood on the porch reading it twice, then once more, slower. My hands didn't shake. My pulse didn't spike. Instead, I smiled. They were showing their cards too early. They thought this was about money. That afternoon, I called Ava. She met me at a diner 2 towns over, legal pad already open, phone on speaker, pen tapping the table like a countdown. First thing, she said, not even waiting for coffee, this letter is laughable. Second, don't respond yet, let me. She slid over her notepad. Also, I filed a quiet title action preemptively. We're not playing defense anymore. I stared at her. You already filed? She grinned. I told you, we're not waiting for them to throw the first punch. The next day, Celeste called. She'd been prepping the listing just in case and had already done the walkthrough with a photographer. That's when it happened. Your mom showed up at the house, she said. I froze. What? Walked right up during the shoot, told me she was the owner and asked me to delete the photos. She even tried the front door. I blinked. How did she even know we were... Celeste cut me off. You need to change your locks again, today. I called a locksmith within the hour, and then, out of pure spite, I printed a bright red sign and taped it to the front door. Private property. Trespassers will be recorded and reported. Because what they didn't know was that I'd installed cameras, front, back, and side. Not because I thought they'd break in, because I knew they would try. That night, I slept easier than I had in weeks, until Saturday morning when Henry came into the kitchen holding a folder. Grandpa gave this to me outside school, he said. I froze. He what? He was waiting near the parking lot, said it was just some papers to give you, said not to mention it to the teachers. My throat dried instantly. I opened the folder. Inside, copies of old bills, a few checks from 2013, and a handwritten note. Proof we supported you. We're only asking for what's fair. They'd gone around me, again, through my son. I looked at Henry, who was already sensing the tension. Did he say anything else? Henry shook his head. Only that you used to be nicer. I felt the ground shift beneath me. This wasn't just a line crossed. It was a declaration of war. Sunday morning, I drove straight to the school. The principal met me in his office, eyebrows raised. I understand your concern, Elliot, but the interaction happened off school grounds. He waited in the parking lot, I said, voice low but steady, and handed a folder of legal threats to a 10-year-old. That's not family drama. That's intimidation.
The principal promised to review pickup protocols, promised to alert security, promised to have a conversation with the front desk staff, who'd previously waved my parents through with nothing more than a tight smile and a nod. But I was done with promises. I forwarded the incident to Ava. She didn't hesitate. We're adding it to the file. That's attempted coercion of a minor. She was already compiling a case file the size of a small novel. Documents, login timestamps, Graham's unauthorized move-in, the near-miss bank transfer, and now this. But I wanted more. I didn't just want them blocked from the house. I wanted them locked out of my life, legally, permanently. Ava connected me with a family attorney named Rafiq. Soft-spoken but lethal. He helped me file for a restraining order. Not dramatic, just a narrow one. No contact through Henry, no appearances at school, no approach within 500 feet of my property. "You sure you want to go this far?" he asked. I thought about Henry's face when he handed me that folder. I thought about how my dad had waited in a parking lot, knowing what it would do. I nodded. "Yeah, I'm sure." Meanwhile, Graham was trying to pivot. He posted a photo of himself in front of a microphone, captioned, "Big things coming soon. Can't stay down forever." A comment underneath read, "Didn't your brother kick you out for stealing from him?" No reply, just a quiet deletion. Their narrative was slipping, but I still hadn't told Henry everything. He knew they weren't allowed to come over. He knew Grandma and Grandpa were in trouble, but he didn't know why. Until one night I found him sitting on the stairs listening. I was on a Zoom call with Ava and Rafik discussing the next legal step. When I hung up, he was just there, quiet, small. Did Grandpa break the law? I sat next to him. Sort of. He did something wrong, something that could have hurt us. He looked up at me. "You always say people should be forgiven." "Forgiving someone doesn't mean letting them do it again," I said. "It means letting go, not giving in." He was quiet a long time, then nodded. "Okay, then can we get a dog?" I blinked. "What?" "If we're starting over, I think we need a dog, a new one that doesn't know them." I laughed, genuinely laughed. "Yeah, buddy," I said, "we'll look into that." Because he was right. It wasn't just about cutting them off, it was about building something better. The dog's name was Rufus, a mutt, half retriever, half mystery. Found him at the local shelter 2 weeks later, curled in the corner of a kennel like he'd seen some things. Henry fell in love instantly. "He's like us," he said, quiet but still watching everything. Rufus came home that same day. And maybe it sounds stupid, maybe it was stupid, but something changed in the house after that. Not a big thing, just lighter, like we'd opened a window that had been sealed shut for years. Henry started waking up early to walk him. I started coming home from work runs just to hear the sound of nails skittering across hardwood floors. Peace, I was learning, doesn't always arrive with fireworks. Sometimes it comes wagging its tail. But peace doesn't stop a storm, and the next one hit on a Tuesday. Celeste called me, voice clipped. They filed an injunction. I blinked. What kind? Emergency temporary injunction to block the sale of the house, claiming shared ownership. It's garbage, but it'll freeze things until we get a ruling. I felt my stomach lurch, but I kept my tone calm. What's our timeline? Couple of weeks, maybe less if the judge fast-tracks it. Ava's already drafting our response, but this just went from Cold War to courtroom. I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. Later that night, after Henry went to bed, I stepped outside onto the porch. Rufus followed and flopped down beside me like a sentient sandbag. I scrolled through my phone, rereading the court filing they'd submitted. There it was, plain as day.
The plaintiff, Elliot Carpenter, has shown erratic and impulsive behavior. The respondents, Thomas and Lillian Carpenter, seek to delay the sale of the property until a formal psychiatric evaluation can be completed. I laughed, out loud, sharp and bitter, the kind of laugh that leaves your mouth before your brain even approves it. They were trying to brand me unstable now. The next morning, I made 3 calls. First, Ava. She'd already seen the filing. We're countersuing. Motion to dismiss and petition for declaratory judgment of sole ownership. Will include the attempted theft, the unauthorized entry, and the school pickup stunt. Second, Rafik. Let's lock down Henry's school records. No contact, no visibility. If they show up again, we escalate. Third, Joel, my therapist. I told him everything. The filing, the wording, the suggestion that I was mentally unfit to sell my own home. He leaned back in his chair and said something I'll never forget. You realize what this is, right? It's not about the house anymore. It's about control. You're no longer playing the role they assigned you, and they're panicking. I nodded. So what do I do? You hold the line. That night, Henry asked if he could make signs for the lemonade stand he was planning. I want to start early, he said. Make a brand. You think Rufus can be the mascot? I stared at him, this tiny CEO in pajama pants, and felt something strange and warm settle in my chest. Hope. Real hope. Not the cautious kind I'd been living on for years. The kind that grows roots. We spent the evening designing logos with crayons. Rufus slept under the table, snoring like a chainsaw wrapped in a blanket. For a while, the world was small and safe again. Then, just before bedtime, my phone buzzed. It was a Facebook message request from Graham. "Hope you're proud of yourself. Mom's crying every day. Dad's blood pressure is through the roof. And for what? A couple bricks in a backyard? This isn't over, I promise you." I didn't reply. I took a screenshot. Then I added it to the case file. Because I wasn't angry anymore. I was ready. The court date was set for Friday. Bench trial. No jury, just a judge, some chairs, and the weight of 10 years' worth of quiet resentment boiled down into 2 folders and a flash drive. Ava arrived early, wearing her "I dare you" heels and a blazer that meant business. She greeted me with a simple nod and handed me a fresh copy of our case file. They brought a lawyer. Looks like they're taking it seriously now. I didn't flinch. So are we. Mom and Dad walked in 5 minutes late, of course. Dad in a beige suit 2 decades out of fashion, Mom in her church pearls like this was a social luncheon. They didn't look at me, not once. Graham wasn't there. Ava had blocked his testimony on grounds of prior misconduct. Apparently, his courthouse incident involving a vape pen and a meltdown at security had worked in our favor. The judge, a sharp-eyed woman in her 60s, took the bench and opened with the basics. Today, we're reviewing the matter of declaratory ownership over the property located at 17 Oak Ridge Lane. Ava stood first, calm, precise. She presented the mortgage records, tax history, utilities, contractor receipts. She showed 10 straight years of ownership, maintenance, and payments made solely by me. Then the email, the one Dad had sent in 2015, confirming in his own words their intent to remove their names from the title after year 5. The judge leaned forward, read it, then looked at my parents. "Is this email accurate?" Mom started to answer. "Well, is it accurate?" the judge repeated. Dad muttered, "Yes." Then Ava slid the flash drive across the table. "We'd also like to submit security footage showing attempted unlawful entry during the property's listing period and a series of digital communications that suggest financial coercion and manipulation." The footage played.
My mom's voice, sharp and unmistakable, saying to Celeste, "This house was never his anyway, he just stayed here." That was it. That was the nail. When the judge asked for their defense, their lawyer stammered something about verbal agreements and good faith expectations, but it was like watching someone try to build a bridge out of dryer lint. In the end, the ruling was brief. Based on documentation and testimony, this court recognizes Elliot Carpenter as the sole legal and equitable owner of the property. The lien is hereby removed. The respondent's claim is dismissed with prejudice. I didn't move, didn't smile, just exhaled. Ava whispered, "Congratulations, you're free." Not quite, I thought. Not yet. I didn't tell them about the letters right away. Didn't need to. Because within a week of the ruling, my phone lit up like a Christmas tree. But none of the calls were from my family. They were from people they cared about. The pastor of their church left a voicemail, calm, polite, deeply disappointed. A woman from the HOA committee emailed me a one-liner. "So sorry you had to go through that." Even Mrs. Trent from the old gardening club, who once called me the quiet one with the nice shirts, left a comment under Graham's self-pitying Facebook posts. Funny how things look different when the truth comes out. You see, I mailed out copies of the public court ruling, just a few, to the bridge club, the church board, that distant cousin they bragged about knowing a state senator. The cover letter was short. In light of recent misinformation, I thought it appropriate to share factual documentation. This is not an attempt to escalate, only to clarify. Respectfully, Elliot Carpenter. No mudslinging, no personal attacks, just the truth in black and white with a court seal at the bottom. Ava called 2 days later, barely hiding her grin. "Your mother tried to contact the judge." "What?" "Left 3 voicemails. The clerk filed a complaint. It's not criminal, just not smart." Then came Graham. He posted a 700-word screed on Facebook about betrayal, family, and the toxic myth of individualism. Said I was brainwashed, that money had poisoned my soul, and that someday I'd be begging to come back. Top comment, "Isn't this the guy who tried to steal from his own brother?" Second comment, "My guy, you're 38. Grow up." He deleted it within the hour. I didn't respond. Instead, I went with Henry to look at the new house. Smaller, quieter, one town over. Clean lines, big backyard, a lemon tree in the corner lot, gnarled and stubborn and very, very real. Henry ran through the grass with Rufus trailing behind, barking like a maniac. I stood on the porch and felt something unfamiliar settle in my chest. Relief. I put in an offer that afternoon. Cash. Celeste handled the paperwork, Ava handled the final lien removal filings, and I handled changing our phone numbers without telling a soul. We moved in 2 weeks later. No fanfare, no announcement, just a new beginning. Then one afternoon, a letter arrived at Henry's school, hand-delivered, cream envelope, no stamp. He brought it home in his backpack, frowned. It's from Grandma again. I opened it, typed, cold, perfect grammar. We never thought you'd go this far. You've humiliated us, chosen money over family. Just know, when you're alone, we tried to love you. You made it impossible. I read it, folded it neatly, and dropped it into the trash. Henry watched me. Pizza night? I smiled. Yeah, buddy. Extra toppings. The last message I ever got from Graham came 3 days later. A text. Just 5 words. You'll regret this one day. I stared at it, thought about replying, thought about telling him all the things I hadn't said, that I had loved him once, that I had tried, that the person he used to be maybe still lived somewhere under all that bitterness and entitlement. But I didn't, because sometimes silence is the only honest answer left. So I blocked his number. 2 months passed. Henry started 5th grade in the new school district, made a friend within the first week. Rufus got a haircut that made him look like an angry sheep. I planted herbs in the kitchen window. Basil, mint, something small to tend that wasn't broken. Life didn't magically become perfect. The garbage still needed to go out. The coffee still burned sometimes. But the weight, that constant, invisible weight, was gone. And that was everything. One night, Henry and I sat on the back porch watching the sky turn dark blue behind the trees. He was building a Lego car. Rufus snored at our feet. "You think they'll ever say sorry?" he asked softly. I thought about it. Really thought. And then I said, "I don't think they know how." Henry nodded like he already knew that answer, like he just wanted to hear me say it. A few minutes later, he looked up again. "Are you happy now?" I didn't answer right away. I looked at the yard, the lemon tree, the glow of our porch light. I thought about all the years I'd spent being the strong one, the responsible one, the one who always cleaned up the mess. And now I was just me, a dad, a homeowner, a man who finally said no. I looked at my son, safe, whole, and laughing again, and I nodded. I think I finally am.